Okay, so welcome to the deep dive. We are diving into something pretty big that just happened.
Yeah.
OpenAI just activated native image generation right inside GPT-4o.
Right.
So ChatGPT
Yeah.
that everyone's been using. Well, now it can just like make pictures too.
Yeah, that's right.
That anything you type in.
You sent over some really good stuff about this, and our goal today is to understand what this is really all about, like how it differs from the older ways of doing it, like Daily 3,
Right.
what it can do that's just amazing, and also where are the limits right now?
Yeah, and it's interesting when this is all happening, right?
Yeah.
Because we saw GPT-4o come out like way back in May 2024.
Right.
But now it's March 2025.
Yeah.
And only now can everyone do this image thing. Like even if you're just a free user,
Yeah.
which feels like a pretty big deal.
Makes you think back to that preview from Greg Brockman, back in May last year.
I know.
And I wonder if all the stuff we've seen since then, like Google's Gemini 2 Flash, the experimental one,
Yeah.
if that maybe pushed OpenAI to do this, more widely.
Yeah, totally.
One thing that really struck me from what you sent over was this reaction that one user they just said the image quality was insane, just like that.
Wow.
And it really hits you how much of an impact this tech is having,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into this. What's the fundamental difference between this image stuff inside GPT-4o and what we had before with DALL-E 3 and ChatGPT?
Right. So the really key thing here is what they call native multimodality.
Okay.
So with DALL-E 3, even though you could use it through ChatGPT, it was still kind of a separate thing running behind the scenes.
Okay.
And it was using this thing called a diffusion transformer model, which is basically learning how to make pictures from words by slowly adding details and removing noise.
Okay.
GPT-4o, on the other hand, was designed from the beginning to understand text code and images all at the same time.
Wow.
So this image generation is not like an add-on. It's built into how it thinks.
So it's not like two pieces of software talking to each other. It's like it's all one brain now.
Oh. Exactly. Yeah, it's like instead of having a translator between two specialists, one for text, one for images, you have one expert who just gets both from the start.
Huh.
And that means it can understand what you want much better and be way more creative.
Wow. Okay.
And the benefits of this really tight integration are huge, especially when it comes to the quality of the images it can make.
Yeah.
Because it understands everything together. It can make visuals that are just so much more in tune with your words,
Right. Yeah. Okay. So what are some of the things that really make it stand out? Like what are the wow factors of this?
So OpenAI, they've highlighted a few key advancements. One of the biggest is how much better it is with text.
Oh, yeah.
Think about how many times you've seen AI images where the text is just like gibberish, on a sign or a t-shirt or whatever. GPT-4o is designed to actually get that text right,
Okay.
which is just a huge deal for making realistic stuff like
Yeah.
signs, menus, even like infographics,
That is huge.
Yeah.
I can see how much more useful that is, whether you're doing marketing or just messing around.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
What else is there? So another big leap is what they call enhanced contextual understanding.
Yeah.
Because it's right there in ChatGPT. GPT-4o can look at your whole conversation.
Okay.
So you can talk to it and ask it to change the image, and it'll keep everything consistent as you go back and forth.
So it's not just like a one and done thing. You can actually have a conversation with it
Exactly.
while you're making the image.
And then there's multi-object binding.
Multi-object binding. What's that?
That's basically how well it can handle a bunch of different things in one picture.
Oh, okay.
Older models had trouble with this, like placing things correctly and making them relate to each other. But GPT-4o can handle 10 to 20 different objects now.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, so you can make way more detailed scenes.
That's crazy. Okay, so what about the style of the images? Is it limited to one particular look?
Yeah. No, not at all. It's designed to be super versatile, so it can do photorealistic stuff that looks like a real photo, but also illustrations, sketches, all kinds of things, which is a huge advantage.
The articles also mention some really specific controls you can use, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you can set the exact aspect ratio you need for the picture. You can pick colors with hex codes. You can even control how transparent parts of it are.
Okay.
And it's pretty fast, too, usually under a minute.
Wow, and it's not just OpenAI saying all this. We're seeing experts in the field saying it too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Allie K. Miller, who's a big AI consultant, she said on X that this is a huge leap. She actually said text generation, but she meant image generation.
I see.
She even said it's the best AI image generation model she's seen.
Oh.
And that kind of statement from someone like her really shows how big a deal this is.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so this all sounds really powerful. So like for someone listening to this who's, really into learning new things, how could they actually use this in their own lives?
This is where it gets really interesting. So imagine you're working on a design or branding project.
Okay.
You could generate logos, posters, ads, all with perfect text, getting the font and everything just right, which used to be really hard.
Yeah.
And for education, think about making custom diagrams, infographics, or even historical visuals to bring stuff to life for students.
Right. So no more like cheesy stock photos that don't really fit.
Exactly.
Yeah, I could see how that would be huge for
Or
teachers.
for game developers, too. Keeping the style and characters consistent across all the marketing and the game itself becomes so much easier.
Right.
And anyone doing marketing or making content, they can use this for social media event, invites custom illustrations, anything that needs to match their brand.
It really makes you think about how many things that used to need like specialized design skills can now be done by anyone.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, it is. What do you think is the most like transformative application?
I think it's that ability to combine text and images so seamlessly, whether it's for instructions for a DIY project, or making learning materials accessible for everyone, or even just like getting an idea out of your head and onto the screen.
Yeah.
That combination of text and images feels like a huge step forward.
Yeah,
It makes visual communication so much easier for so many people.
totally. Okay, so with all these amazing capabilities, we should also be realistic about the limitations, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's
Yeah.
not perfect yet. The articles mention a few areas that still need work.
Okay.
For example, there can be issues with cropping. Like when you're making a big poster, sometimes it cuts off parts of the image.
Oh, that would be annoying.
Yeah, especially if you have a specific composition in mind.
Right.
There are also some issues with text accuracy, especially with non-Latin groups. Some characters might not look right.
Okay.
And if you have really small or detailed text in the image, it can still get blurry. And finally, editing specific parts of the image without messing up the rest is still tricky.
So it can make these really detailed images, but you don't have like pixel perfect control over everything yet.
Exactly. But OpenAI is working on all this stuff. It's a constantly evolving technology.
Right. Okay,
Right.
that makes sense. Now with all this power to make such realistic images, what's OpenAI doing to make sure it's used responsibly?
So they've put in place a few important measures. First, every image that GPT-4o makes includes something called C2PA metadata.
C2PA metadata.
Yeah, it's basically a digital tag. That proves the image was made with AI.
So it's like a digital fingerprint
Exactly.
that says this came from AI.
And they've also made an internal tool to help them find AI-generated images within their own systems.
Okay.
And really importantly, they have strict rules and tech in place to stop people from making harmful content.
Like what kind of stuff?
Like, explicit material misinformation, harmful imagery, things like that.
Okay.
And they're even stricter when it comes to making images of real people.
It sounds like they're really trying to stay ahead of the bad stuff.
They are Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. He said this release is a new high watermark for creative freedom. But he also said that they're going to be watching very closely how people are using it in the real world, and they'll keep adapting as they learn.
Which makes sense, right? You can't predict every way people will use something.
Exactly.
The article also mentioned that they're going to integrate this image stuff with Sora, their video generation platform.
Right.
What do you think that means for the future of all this?
Well, if you think about the bigger picture, this combination of powerful image generation and sophisticated video creation really suggests a future where making really rich content that blends text images and video will become much easier for everyone.
So like you could go from a text prompt to a full video all in one place.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
It is. It really suggests a future where the lines between different types of media just kind of disappear.
Yeah.
Okay,
so let's wrap up. What are the key takeaways from our deep dive into GPT-4's image generation?
Okay, so the main thing is that image generation is now deeply integrated right into GPT-4o itself. It's not a separate thing like DALL-E 3 was.
Right.
And this means it's way better at things like rendering text in images, understanding what you mean in a conversation, handling more complex scenes, and giving you more style options.
And this opens up so many possibilities in design, education, marketing, even game development.
Yeah, it's a really powerful tool that can make people more creative and make visual communication more accessible.
But it's also important to remember that there are still some limitations.
Right, like with cropping, text accuracy in certain languages, and fine-grained editing. but OpenAI is working on those.
And they're also taking safety seriously
Right.
with the C2PA metadata and the content restriction.
Yeah, they're trying to balance creative freedom with responsibility,
Which is good. So here's a final thought for you, our listener. Now that we can make such amazing images so easily, how will this change how we communicate visually? And how will we know what's real and what's not? It's something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.